Hey guys, it's Tom Box here. Now, Battle of Legends Relentless Revenge is coming out very soon, near the end of this week, and there's only two things you really need to care about. What are all the exclusive in the set, and what are all the sought-after reprints? That's it. So, I'm splitting the video into two parts about the top 10 most sought-after reprints and the top 10 most sought-after exclusives. So this is going to be the exclusive side, so this is going to be a card count. They're not in any particular order, and if I am missing any of these cards, you can leave it down in the comment section below about what you really want in this set, whether it be exclusives or reprints. And to my latest Patreon, Gio Rivera, thank you so much for pledging. I appreciate everything, and if you are down at WCQNA, I will see you there. Of course, come find me. All of you Patreons, I'm holding stuff for you guys. If you can find me, come get them. And if you guys want to help support this channel and keep this channel running strong, upgrading to the whole new level, then you can go check out the Patreon link down in the description below. Any number of pledge helps out, and I love you all. And you, of course, get access to the Discord exclusive downloads archive. And you know what? Let's get into this video. So number 1, Flying Elephant. So this is, oh my god, let's just talk about the card art first before I get into this as a professional art maker or creator of art. Yeah, the card art is quite ugly. I can't believe it. This thing looks like it's from the Legend of Blue Eyes era. Yeah, it just doesn't. I hope it's not a kid's drawing, because that, I'm sorry if this is a kid's drawing of some sort, like maybe it was like some sort of contest. I hope it's not. But regardless, so this is a win condition card. You get to win the duel if you do meet all the conditions of this card. So the first time this card would be destroyed by opponent's card effect, and now that your opponent reads that, they're like, oh, I'm not going to destroy this with a card effect. It is not. And then once that is applied during the end phase, you can apply this effect during the next turn, which is back to your turn now. So during your turn, if this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent with a direct attack, you win the duel. See, this thing can go back and forth. Now that I read this card a bit more carefully, yeah, so once you get the effect to trigger at the end, then what if you just steal your opponent's monster? Say you tried to destroy it during your opponent's turn, and then they're like, I'm gonna protect it, and then you go like enemy controller, take it, and then use it for a direct attack against them. I feel like this thing can actually backfire, but I'm not completely too sure about the ruling since, well, it's not out in TCG. But yeah, that's just one funny card, but it has really ugly art. Number 2 is number 27, Dreadnought Droid. This monster to me feels like a pretty exciting monster because it is a generic rank 4 that can use 2 or more materials. Really generic, but what it can really bring out is the big rank monsters, rank 10 and above machine type monsters. How do you bring them out, and how do you use this card? Well, if this card destroys a monster by battle, and at the end of the battle phase, you can summon out from your extra deck one rank 10 or higher Xyz machine type monster. By using this card as a material, it is considered as an Xyz summon, and you can transfer the material. So what can you bring out? Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me anyways is Super Dimensional Galaxy Destroyer robot thing, the 5k beater that can blow up all the back row. That thing kind of comes to mind because it's pretty hard to make. You can also get out Magnus if you really want, but unless you use 3 materials to make this card and then go into a Magnus, then you can actually get the immunity from Magnus, because Magnus needs 4 materials for the immunity. So if you use 2 plus the Dredd Droid, and then you put 1 card on top, which is that you only hit 3, so that doesn't exactly work out. But there's a lot of good things you can do with it. Aside from that effect, you can also protect itself from being destroyed by detaching 1. So it's quite a sticky monster, and with a stat line of 2200 attack, it can just destroy a monster by battle quite easily. It doesn't even need to send it to the graveyard. Okay, so number 3, it's going to be Slash Draw. Now, the Japanese name for Slash Draw is Ichigeki Hatsatsu, which is much cooler than Slash Draw, because this is 1 hit, 1 kill. I guess the whole samurai notion was like you slash your opponent in the face, and you can OTK your opponent. Might as well just call this OTK Draw, because it makes a lot more sense. Now, to use this effect, you discard a card, you look at your opponent's side, count the number of cards they control, and you mill from the top of your deck equal to the number of cards they control. Then you draw a card and reveal it. Now, if you draw the card, you gotta do it epic Yugi style, be like, "Ugh," because you can OTK them if you draw into a Slash Draw. You reveal the card regardless of what it is, and then if it's Slash Draw, put it into the graveyard and destroy the entire field. You destroy every single card, and for every card you destroy, you deal 2,000 damage per card. So 3 cards on top of, I guess, 4 cards total, and then it's an 8,000 damage, which is pretty impressive. It kind of reminds me of Akuma's Raging Demon. You just get that one hit and they're like at half-life or something like that. Okay, sounds fair enough. But if you do miss the card, it's not too bad. You get to keep the card that you drew, I suppose. It doesn't say you have to send it to the graveyard. And then you actually have to put cards equal to the number of cards you milled from the graveyard back into the deck. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the same cards you milled. So in other words, you can recycle resources. Number 4, Glorious Numbers. So many numbers, right, guys? But the Glorious Numbers is a spell card that lets you revive a numbers monster from your graveyard. But the best part about this card is that it is a +1. After you successfully revive the monster by specially summoning it from the graveyard, you get to draw 1 card. And that actually applies to the other effect, which is you can banish this card from the graveyard, target one of your number exceeds monster, and then you can attach a card from your hand to that monster as an exceeds material, giving it the activation perhaps it needs to continue on. Or if you're lucky enough to sack into a Raigeki and then Raigeki the board and then punch for game, that also works out pretty well too, if you ask me. So overall, you can actually reuse some of your monsters. Now, I think that number 27 Dreadnought, Dread Droid, that guy could probably turn into an even bigger Xyz because I don't think it requires any Xyz material to actually turn into something bigger. So yeah, there's that going for it. You can turn it into that really big super galaxy destroyer robot dimensional guy, whatever his name is. Number 5, we have Living Fossil. Living Fossil special summons out a level 4 or lower monster from the graveyard onto the field and equips this card to it. It is an equip spell after all, very much so like a Premature Burial. If you're just looking for material for link summons or play extender, this is actually a pretty decent option because it doesn't have any condition. The only thing is that the monster that you revive, well, it gets banished and doesn't get to keep any of its effects because its effects are negated. And it loses 1,000 attack and defense, so you can't exactly use it for pushing for OTK. But one of the best things about it is it has no cost, there's no condition, and it doesn't set any restrictions on yourself. So this is a card you might need to look forward to in the future. You can only use this card once per turn, and unlike Premature Burial, if this card is bounced back to your hand, that monster still gets banished. But using this card to revive something for an Xyz material, if you're still playing Xyz nowadays, this is actually a pretty decent option because it very much so acts like a monster reborn. Number 6, we have Sandion, the Time Lord. Actually, this entire set has a ton of new Time Lords coming in. They all do different sorts of effects. They even give us the trap lineup from Empty Machine all the way to Infinite Light. Yeah, so it becomes quite devastating if they actually get that far, but this is massive support. This is just one of the many Time Lords being released, but this one's a bit special because this is the Beat Stick. Normally, they don't exactly have Beat Stick. They can stall and burn you, and it does have a burn effect, but this one does carry 4,000 attack, which is a pretty neat thing to do, and you can actually put him under Skill Drain, and if you put him under Skill Drain, then you have a 4k Beat Stick you can summon from your hand. Ugh. But aside from that, the effect damage that comes from this when it battles is 2,000 regardless. So this is the burn monster. Really good in time play if you know what I mean. And I guess all pun intended. Number 7, Cyber Emergency. Now, Cyber Emergency is a consistency card for Cyber Dragon. I honestly thought this card was going to be coming out in Cybernetic Horizon, but I was wrong. It's coming out now, so if you're going to be playing Cyber Dragons, you should hold on to a playset of this because it's quite useful. All it lets you do is add from your deck to your hand 1 Cyber Dragon monster, or a light machine based monster that cannot be normal summoned or set. Okay, that seems easy enough, I suppose. If this card's activation is negated by your opponent sent to the graveyard as a result, you can discard 1 card and add this card back to your hand. You can only activate 1 emergency, Cyber Emergency per turn. Okay, here's the thing though. It is the activation of this card can be once per turn. Activation is not used, so much like Pot of Duality, if the activation of Pot of Duality was negated, you get yourself another copy, you can, well, play it again. This is not used once per turn, so it's a little bit different. Know your rulings on this, so if they add that copy back, they can immediately activate it again because you negated the activation. This is not Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom negates the effect, not the activation. Number 8, Golden Castle of Stromberg. I guess Golden Castle and the entire series of the Princess series they should be kind of categorized as like some of the most wanted cards in this entire set in terms of its exclusives, because this is the only set that releases it, and Golden Castle holds a nostalgic feel as one of those cards in the anime where there was only one copy, much like the God card level. Of course, the card was hacked. Now we get the balanced version of this card finally. I don't know what, like 20 years later, but sure. I think the card art looks amazing. It's really golden, makes you look rich, kind of. If you do have this card, it looks really badass, to be honest. And it is also the center card of the entire archetype, related to Golden Castle anyways, because all your additional effects are only possible with this card on the field. Now, this card itself also acts as a tour guide, which lets you tether out a monster from the deck just by special summoning, and this once per turn, which is pretty good. And most of these monsters also tethers out another monster with them, whether it be Iron Hans or Princess Sin. They actually renamed Cinderella to Princess Sin. I'm guessing because the card art and Cinderella's art looks very similar to the Disney version of it. So to avoid copyright, they decided to call it Princess Sin for a TCG release anyway, which is okay, whatever, you do you, man. But I could think the more important card is Glyph, because Glyph lets you search out the Golden Castle Stromberg. But yeah, overall, this is a very amazing card. It plays very much like Goki's and gives you like multiple engines to tether out monsters. So it's a link spam if you really want to go that way, but it can also be like a beat stick control style deck too. Number 9, we have Beauregard Dragon. So another monster in the Boro series, and like the Boro series Link monsters, they usually carry multiple effects. The first effect is the protection. What are they protected from? So Borreload was protected from being targeted by monster effects. This one is protected from being destroyed by card effects, spell traps, or monster alike. And the effect that you cannot respond to is that you can target one monster on the field and change it to defense position. No response can happen, so you can't get Salt and Striked on this. That's pretty good. Not bad. In terms of the other effect, now Borreload lets you steal monsters. What does this one let you do? Well, once per turn, you can send one card from your spell and trap zone to the graveyard, and special summon one monster from the graveyard that was sent there this turn, that was destroyed and sent there this turn, but its effects are negated. So in other words, you get to keep monsters, again, stealing monsters in some degree, or reviving your own. It states that it is just the graveyard, so I'm guessing this includes your opponent's cards. So if you destroyed your opponent's big links, say that you killed their firewall, now you get to steal their firewall, and well, it's just a beat stick. Or maybe you want to steal a link 3 so that you can actually link up into a firewall or something like that. So its options are available. This thing's actually pretty fun, gives you extra utility if you don't want to use Borreload. And number 10, Topologic Gumblar Dragon, and this is probably the most sought after card in this entire set in terms of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! The guys playing Gokis, they're looking forward to using this, especially at NAWCQ, because it is legal by then. Wow, this is actually quite silly. What does it do? Well, like all the Topologic monsters, if you do summon it into a zone this card points to, it does something. What is it that it does? Discard up to 2 random cards, and then your opponent discards the same amount of cards. So this is what happens if you just use the regular effect of when you trigger it by special summoning a card into an arrow, or your opponent special summons into its arrow, and then you discard 2 cards and your opponent can discard 2 cards. But if this card is extra linked, however, on your turn, instead what you can do is make your opponent discard 2 cards, or their entire hand if they can't do it. And if they have no cards in their hand as a result, they take 3,000 damage. You can just burn them for no reason, then you can still punch them for another 3,000, which is very devastating. Here's the thing though, you can only use one of these effects per turn. But what I find very annoying is that it's very easy to trigger this monster on your opponent's turn as well, which can seriously disrupt their play. It's very simple by just using a Link Karibo and just summoning onto the field. Scapegoat, if you only have this card set up. There's like many ways, whether it be TCG NA or TCG EU, it's so easy to trigger this guy. If you're playing Trickstar, you can just banish Reincarnation and summon to the zone. I like that the monster that it points to stays alive, so it's like not exactly gonna remove like your threats or anything. It just puts more threats and you lose resources. It's quite funny, to be honest. But this is one of the most devastating cards in the entire set, and I think a lot of people are going to be looking after this card. It might be one of the more pricey ones, so make sure you don't undervalue this card. So that is all I got for the 10 most sought after exclusives in this set. Of course, I am going to try to do the 10 most sought after reprints as well. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit me up with a thumbs up. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to support this channel, keep this channel running alive, hit that link down in the description below for the Patreon stuff. And as always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job. And you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.